Ah, good morning, everybody. So, this morning I am speaking on hope, and this is the first Sunday of Advent with a focus on hope and faith. And some of you know from my talk, and probably perhaps before my talk, that the word Advent is a Latin word that is from the word adventure. And so, if you just take the last three letters off of the word Advent, you have adventure. You've got Advent. Um, as an adventure. And so you can think of this Advent season as a spiritual adventure and as more of an inner adventure of exploring where we are with hope, with faith, with peace, with joy, and with love, and where we want to be, where we want to be. The destination of our inner adventure is to birth the light of consciousness within ourselves. The Christ consciousness is to be born in our own heart and in our own minds and in our own life. So this morning we begin with hope. We begin with hope. Thich Nhat Hanh has a beautiful quote about hope. He says, "Hope is important because it can make the present moment less difficult to bear. If we believe that tomorrow will be better, we can bear a hardship today." I have been feeling hope rising in me. These past few weeks, especially, I feel a change coming. I can feel it. And I feel we need to be mindful. We have to keep up our careful living, for a few more months. But we are going to get past this pandemic. And I feel like in the spring, in the spring, early summer, we are going to get together again. We are going to celebrate. It's going to be an explosion of love and joy and hugs and just outward creativity. And I feel like we're going to heal the political divide, the divisions in our country. I feel like we're going to have a kind of renaissance, this bursting of creative energy that comes from what's felt like a bit of a dark age for this past year. Um, there's a quote I've always loved from Rabindranath Tagore, and he says, "Faith is the bird that feels the light when the dawn is still dark. The bird that feels the light when the dawn is still dark." Hope is that part of us that knows light is coming, even when it's pitch black outside. There is a scripture from Psalm chapter 43, verse 5. "Why are you so downcast, O my soul? Why do you sigh within me? Hope in God. Hope in God." Um, that scripture describes a moment of mindfulness. It's almost like me talking to myself, right? When I'm feeling discouraged and I notice, this inner sigh, this inner weight, this weightiness. And I remind myself, you needn't be downcast. Divine presence is here. Light and love and the power to hope and to create a better day and a better next moment. That is within me, that power to create a better next moment. So to hope in God is to hope in a greater reality, to hope in a greater possibility in the next moment, to hope in a greater tomorrow, to hope in a greater new year of 2021, a magical, amazing new year, to hope in the divine unfoldment of your life. For me, faith and hope are like sisters. Hope is knowing tomorrow will be brighter, and faith is knowing it already exists, if just in the mind. So, the same way that the bird feels the light, it knows that the light already exists even before the sun comes up. That's faith. So, speaking of birds, last Sunday I shared a story about what we can learn from ducks and how we can practice duck medicine and just learn to let things roll off us like water rolls off a duck's back. and learn to take full responsibility for our experience. And I was delighted that so many of you related to that duck story, in part because you have ducks. We have a duck in our family up at my mom's named Daisy. We've all fallen in love with Daisy, and she's our great teacher. Well, I found another duck story, and this week that I love, and it's a story of hope. It inspires hope, and it's a story that shows you the goodness of humanity, and that things can turn out even for a duck who is missing a foot. Okay, so this is a true story. There's this one-legged duck from Arkansas named Peg, and no pun intended, but she did have a peg leg. And Peg's owner, Patsy, said that Peg had lost her leg when she was just a little baby duck. A turtle chewed her foot off. And so Peg still managed to get around, and live, just fine. But her leg without a foot got more and more sore because she would just walk on the bottom of her leg instead of on her foot. And so Patsy started doing research to see how she could help her duck. And someone in the community heard that Patsy was trying to figure out how to help her duck. And this woman, her name was Alicia Bell. She was the director of the local high school environmental and technology lab. And the lab had a 3D printer. And so this teacher and her students offered to help Peg the duck by trying to create a prosthetic duck leg with their 3D printer. And Patsy was thrilled. She was hoping that Peg would get a leg, would get a foot. Well, after 30 tries, 3 students were able to create a 3D leg for Peg that worked. And in the video, when you watch the video, it's so moving when they finally get it right and they put this little prosthetic foot and half a leg on Peg, and she runs around the yard and she's squawking with joy and she's so excited and she can run great, and it's so heartwarming to watch her. And so it's a happy not ending. It's a beginning for Peg, who now can walk and run like a normal duck. But I was just so touched by the faith and the hope that these kids had and this teacher had, that they could help this duck, that they put in so much effort that it took them 30 times to get to where they made a working leg for Peg. And to me, that's just a beautiful example of hope and of faith, that we can make this world a better place and that we can bring more happiness to others, including other creatures who are also part of God. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And they will make it possible for others to walk and not be faint, even duck beings. For with faith in the creative energy that God is, all things are possible. All things are possible." So I was reading this wonderful little booklet that Carolyn sent us all. I hope you have your booklet and you've been reading it, because it's wonderful. It has writings for today and each day of this week on hope. And there was one of the writers in that little booklet, Reverend Jim Rosemergy, who shares this story. He says, "There was once a counselor who listened intently to people sharing their problems and concerns. And the counselor would often be as confused as the client. And he had to choose between entering into despair with the person or pointing the way to a new life. And the favorite phrase of this counselor was, 'There is an answer. There is an answer.' And he would continue, 'I'm as confused as you are right now, but I know there is an answer.' And this simple statement quickened hope. So as you move through the day, you can be sensitive to people around you and any problems they're having or problems that you are having. And maybe take this affirmation with you today. I know there is an answer to any challenges in my life or in the world. And maybe the answer is waiting, like Rosie's beautiful prayer, listening. Maybe the answer is listening in more silence for the guidance to become clear. Sometimes that is the answer. Maybe the answer is a new direction in your healing process. Maybe the answer is choosing forgiveness for yourself or for someone in your life. Maybe the answer is to stop fighting and resisting life and just surrender, surrender to God. Let go and let God. There is an answer. In one of the classes I just finished in our Unity, one of the SEE classes, we had the assignment to call Silent Unity, which I've called before, but not in a while. And it is such a resource. I forget, sometimes how wonderful it is and how beautifully trained and compassionate those people that answer the phone 24/7 at Silent Unity are. Because I called late at night and just to see, and they answered. And this very compassionate woman prayed with me. She just asked about what I was wanting to pray about. And she gave me an affirmation after we prayed. And she said, the divine presence in you is greater than any condition. The divine presence in you is greater than any condition. And I know that is true. But to hear her say it, God was speaking to me through this woman, and it was healing. And the condition has gotten better. And I know that divine presence in me is greater than any condition. And I know that is true for us all. So what we call faith, it's a power of the divine mind that we are given. We are heirs to divine mind and divine power and the power to heal. We are children of God. And Jesus offered so many examples. His teachings are just abundant with examples of how your faith has made you whole. Your faith has made you whole. Myrtle Fillmore, I know you've heard the story about her before, about her, being sickly as a child. She had tuberculosis. But her life changed when she finally went to that first lecture. She heard a metaphysician speak who was all about healing with the power of the mind, and that was E.B. Weeks. And she heard that she did not have to believe that she inherited sickness, that she did not have to believe that she genetically inherited illness from her relatives. And she created an affirmation for herself: as a child of God, I do not inherit illness. And she lived by that affirmation and she spoke it, and it took her time, and she repeated it and she made it real. She took it all the way deep into her subconscious and she made it real. And I was just thinking about how her faith, was so powerful and how it grew. And I was also thinking about how important it is for us to love ourselves through our healing process and to have compassion for ourselves when we have health challenges and realize they're not a punishment, that we didn't do anything wrong. I think some people have this idea about karma as a punishment, and I don't see it that way. But that, when we're going through something difficult, it's not a sentence, it's a signal. It's a message for us to learn about ourselves and to learn about consciousness and to learn to love ourselves more kindly. And we can make friends with a condition, whatever it is, and ask for its blessing, ask for its wisdom, and look for the message. Look for the way to rebalance and to have greater faith in our mind and our body and in our ability to restore our well-being. But I think there's this understanding sometimes in New Thought that we beat ourselves up if we don't heal, and we think that, like I've had a few minister friends that have passed on from this earthly existence, and they were very conscious beings. And I think sometimes people can misjudge a situation like that and think, oh, they must not have had the right consciousness. But I really don't see it that way, because who can know? Who can know the mystery of a soul's journey? And who can say how long a soul is meant to be here and stay in this world? Wholeness, getting to wholeness is healing, but wholeness doesn't always look the way we expect. I have a friend who works in hospice, And she has been so deeply transformed. I love when she shares with me, you know, about her experience in hospice. She has learned so much. I remember her telling me that on her first day working in hospice, the hospice director told her, every life is a complete life. Every life is a whole life. And my friend said she realized on a deeper level that there is no loss in God, that life is ongoing, it is a continuum. And so we can trust that when the soul leaves the body, it is complete. You know, it has been here for the time it needed to be here on this earthly plane. And there is no failure in the soul leaving the body, not at all. When the time comes to leave the body, you know, it was in form for the time it was meant to be, and that soul has eternal nature. One of the most powerful Sanskrit prayers, my favorite prayer of all, is Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Lead us from untruth to truth, from death to immortality, and from darkness to light. Lead us to understanding the truth that who we are in our divine nature is immortal, is undying, is the unchanging absolute reality. But this biological unit, this suit we wear, can be reborn many times beyond this one life. At least that is the philosophy of Charles Fillmore, and also Hinduism and Buddhism, and some mystical Judaism believes that way as well. So we want to hope, we want to grow our hope, and we want to grow our faith, and not only knowing that we are eternal beings, but also knowing we can have many rebirths in this one life that we are living, that we are now living. And I really see this time of Advent, this time that is symbolically expressed in the month building up to the birth of the Christ child, that this can be a time of rebirthing, of greater birthing. You know, I was thinking that our last Sunday that we all met in person was March 15th. And so our first Sunday in lockdown was March 22nd. And this December 21st, this winter solstice, will be exactly 9 months since we went into lockdown, into isolation, into this womb like experience, right, of isolated lockdown. And so, exactly 9 months. So, we will re emerge. I feel like we will re emerge. We are going to soon be re emerging into a new world. And we've learned a lot of things, and things have changed, and some things may be changed permanently. And I feel like we are coming out of a bit of a mini dark age into a time of Renaissance. Renaissance actually means rebirth in Latin. And we can decide what this Renaissance will look like. Um, I've been studying about the Renaissance and how it came out of the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, and what preceded, you know, that birth of so much creativity and so much knowledge and so much just expansion. And if you do study that time before the Renaissance, there was this dark age of cultural decline. There was a period of a repression of science and of repression of philosophy and creative expression in art and music. And part of what supported this time of rebirth was the creation of the printing press. It made it possible for people to become educated and to learn philosophy and learn to think for themselves and stop listening to the fake news, which back then was the Catholic Church that was against science and against women healing with herbs and all sorts of other things. So there was this explosion in the Renaissance of scientific discoveries, and not the least of which was realizing this is a heliocentric solar system. You know, imagine that the Earth is not the center of everything, that the sun is. And so, you know, you had these great artists, you know, and great art like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, and all of this came out of this dark period, out of this repressed period. There was this explosion of creativity and a revival of learning. So, food for thought. So that's really food for thought. That's what I've been thinking is we are upon a little mini renaissance coming. Um, we are near the conclusion of this mini dark age that we have all gone through. And as we move into these weeks leading up to the winter solstice and to the beginning of the growing light, I invite you to feel hope for how you will emerge from this time and all that you have personally learned and all that you have personally been through, and the story that you can tell about this time in the womb for you. My prayer is that we all feel hope in the possibility of our own personal rebirth, but also of this collective rebirth for our community and our country and our world. And let's have faith in the power, the unlimited power of creation within us and within all beings to bring about a new earth, a heavenly realm, through this journey that we've all made in the sacred darkness that births greater consciousness. I have faith that we will witness glory days ahead. So be it, and so it is. Thank you, God.